Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Paul, and it's good to be with you guys again. I had to take a little bit of time off between some vacation and some other commitments, so it's good to be back with you guys and bringing you another video. I'm looking into episode 2 of The Expanse, and excited with all the different stuff that this episode's going to bring. It's a little bit smaller scale of an episode. The first one started off really exciting, really engaging, and just a lot going on. And this one, it sort of brings it back in a little bit. It starts to develop maybe a little bit more in-depth character conflict and stuff like that, especially with our main crew. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to have a good time. So yeah, here we go.
Hoss! Hoss! Debris field! Buckle up! I'll try to drive us out of it.
So right here, right at the very beginning, we pick up right where they left off, and as many of you have mentioned, I need to read the books, which I didn't realize there were books until I started this, and then you guys informed me, and I'm super excited because I always prefer really to read a book before I watch a movie or a show. In this case, obviously, I did a little bit backwards, but I've since started listening to The Expanse, Leviathan Wakes, which is it's been really good so far. And they don't necessarily include this in the story in the book, but I think for the sake of the show, this is really helpful, where they sort of raise the stakes just a little bit to try to fast track some of the progression of the characters, provide a little bit of conflict. I don't necessarily always agree with the conflict that they introduce here, but we'll get to that.
Damn straight. Do not lose that ship. What? Jesus, you're not. We're going after them.
So this is nice. A little bit similar to what happens in the book. Holden really wants to go after the ship, right? He's adrenaline's pumping. He's ready to go. He wants to go after this ship, and you'll see here in a little bit the crew just sort of talking him out of it. And this happens a little more confrontational in this, where I don't necessarily completely agree with how confrontational things get. I mean, I understand what they just went through, and they're trying to sell some of that high stakes, some of that adrenaline stuff. I don't necessarily agree with the level of, I guess, conflict that they have amongst themselves at this point.
Buddy, I don't think
We're losing them.
Don't do it, Alex.
They just dusted 50 of our friends.
Well, let's not make it 55.
Alex, I am telling you to go after that ship.
What if they don't like being followed?
They slip off that screen, they're gone forever. They'll get away with this. What is wrong with you? I gave an order!
You think rank matters now?
Get up. I'll do it myself. Get up!
We're not going anywhere.
So yeah, so right there, Naomi, she steps in and she sort of takes charge, and I think we'll see this really throughout the rest of this episode. Naomi takes a very prominent role as really the leader of this group. Holden has been, like last episode, very reluctant. He doesn't want to be the leader. He doesn't want to step into this position of authority. But now that he has experienced this terrible loss and he's going through it, he's like jumping in ready to just take over, but for really all the wrong reasons, and he's not really thinking straight. And so Naomi just steps in, and it gets very confrontational. And again, I don't really like this necessarily between these characters. We don't really know Naomi super well. She seems very competent. Obviously, she has Amos as sort of like her right-hand guy, who's always supporting her. But Holden being just mindlessly like, we have to pursue them, and I'm going to do this and get out of the way, and confrontational. I don't necessarily like that for his character. And as I've now read some of the first book, I think it was handled a little bit better in the book, where he's more able to be reasoned with, and Naomi is one of the few that she, as his executive officer at that point, she steps forward and is like, hey, Holden, like, we should not do this. Like, we can't do this. And she's the one who talks him off that edge. She does have to step a little bit out of line, but it's not anywhere near this, which I think is just a little bit too much. Again, this is coming from Holden, who last episode was like, I don't want to be a leader, I don't want to step up, I don't want to take responsibility, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, I'm in authority, I'm in a position, I'm going to do this, and we're going to do this. And so I don't know. I don't necessarily like that as much.
Hey, whoa!
Yeah,
Just
see?
take a deep breath here, people. All of you.
Honestly, for him, I would have expected maybe more of a resignation, like, dang it, yeah, you guys are right, and I'm angry at myself, and I'm angry at the situation. But it looks like he's really trying to take that anger out on Naomi, and it's I can see where some of that motivation is coming from for his character. Obviously, he's the reason that all of this has happened, so he's really probably angry at himself, but it doesn't necessarily quite come across that way, and I don't really think in this episode it actually progresses to show you that yet. They do have a little moment where he's like trying to, I guess, account for his own guilt, but we'll get there. I like that. This is another world building thing. And he's just stuck with soap in his hair, on his and this comes back later. I just a really fun moment to learn about him a little bit.
Mars, the water shipment's not late. Go back. They're holding it back.
Seem pretty sure about that.
Water means life. One shipment late, you got protests. 2 shipments late, you got dead people in the street. And it's gonna get worse. Mark my words.
Good world building here. It's just conversation, but it's building this idea of the importance of those resources in that environment. And this Canterbury was a water hauler, so they keep popping it up here and there. You'll hear it in the background. You'll hear it's pretty cool. Also, someone mentioned this in the comments, and I noticed I didn't mention it before, but his broken hand display, hand terminal, it's like cracked and everything. It's very appropriate for his character, even as just a metaphor for who he is. He's kind of this kind of over the hill almost detective, just very done with it. So this is pretty hilarious. Yeah, Miller just helping himself to the water, and I can't remember. I think in the book there's something similar that he does, where he does something a little less than legal, but just helping himself to the water. And this is Miller's character. Like he's very cynical and he's very tired with life, and even while he's doing this investigation and trying to find this person, he's using her water.
Keep it up, partner. You'll get there.
Yep. Again, that's just emphasizing what he feels. It's like, I just keep running on this stupid wheel. Yeah, I'll eventually get there, right?
You must think I'm pretty stupid, don't you? I mean, you're right. I can take a cord part, put it back together with my eyes closed. But ask me whether or not I should rip your helmet off and kick you off this bucket. And I can't give you a reason why I should. Or shouldn't. Except Naomi wouldn't like it. Could you pass me the drill? Thank you.
So right there, this scene right here is really cool. So it shows a couple of different things, right? So Holden, he's trying to get some camaraderie with probably the one who's most obviously going to do something to stop him from being in charge. So he's trying to build some rapport, but he's trying to build rapport with a guy who doesn't build rapport. Like, Amos is right now in this moment. We realize he's he has a very amoral perspective on life, right? So he's like, I have no reason why I should or shouldn't just take your helmet off and throw you off this thing, right? Murder you. His only moral compass, his only like compass for that seems to be Naomi, which is very dangerous. And so it also develops this idea of, well, why does he have so much loyalty towards her in particular? And I think we'll definitely find that out later. But it kind of adds this kind of off-center, off-kilter kind of feel. And you could hear it in the music where it had kind of that like just driving tone just through that scene where it's like you feel a little off and you're not sure about this guy. And it's a very good way to show some tension and build some tension with a character you're not sure about. You don't really know what he's going to do. He's a wild card because he's just like, yeah, I can take apart, a ship. I can put it back together. He's like, but when it comes to moral choices, I don't have that capacity, which is a scary thing to think about. And Holden, obviously, you can see in his face, recognizes it. But then it also adds in this weird element of humor when he asks for the drill, all polite, like nothing happened. Like he doesn't even realize that he just said like something really creepy and scary. Like, yeah, I could murder you or not. It just depends on not my thoughts, but on someone else to make those decisions for me because I can't do it myself. Oh, here, thanks. Pass me this drill. Oh, thank you. And it's just kind of funny because there's this weird like balance of him being like this weird, oddly polite person, but also someone who can just murder you without even thinking about it. I'm imagining the writers went through this thought process of, okay, here's kind of our team. These are our stars. This is the main crew, right? You have the other side stories, right? But this is our main crew. And we need to show their progression as a crew. And so one of the things, and I'm assuming that they followed this kind of mindset of when teams come together, when they work together, you have the forming, storming, norming, then performing. And so they formed, obviously, went on this mission. You see a little disjointedness a little bit, but it's like they're doing their job, whatever. They formed, they're doing their job. They go check out the Scopuli, and then everything goes crazy. They get off the Scopuli and they run. This whole entire episode, in my opinion, is about them storming, right? So there's this like butting of heads, different ideologies, different perspectives. You've got Naomi, who's a belter, that she knows a lot about space, and she's more level-headed, she's mechanically minded. You've got Holden, the reluctant leader, who's an earther that's like kind of reacting and finally trying to step into leadership, but it's just not the right way. And then you've got Alex, who's just sort of he's the pilot, he's kind of this jovial guy, but he's coming to grips with the reality that he's probably going to die. That's really kind of hopeless. So he's trying to like match that up with his personality, which is a little bit more of like this kind of happy-go-lucky guy. And then you got Amos, who's right in the middle of that as just this sort of this kind of wild card. You just don't know how he's going to react. You only know that he's loyal to Naomi. And then you've got the medic, who's not really adding much to it because he's just sort of freaking out. So this is really a good way, I think, for the writers of the show to create some sort of development of this team. And they're really emphasizing at this point the storming phase of any team development. Also, a lot of this episode follows a concept called yes, but. So when you're writing a story, you have these different trajectories you could take your story on, right? So you can have someone meeting success, so that's the yes, I was successful at this, followed up with a but, right? So they were successful in getting out of the airlock, getting out and starting to repair this thing. But one of the backpacks was faulty, and they had to share air, and potentially someone would die. And then they have to get back in. Well, they repaired it. Everyone's safe. Everyone's alive. Everyone's happy. So they were successful in repairing. They were successful in saving these guys' lives. And right now we're waiting for the but, right? The yes and the but. Now, there's another way of doing things where you can do the no. So they failed at something. And so, no, they failed at something. And there's going to be something else that gets inserted into the story that can refocus the trajectory of the story.
The antenna's working, but our signal.
Did you hear that? She said, the antenna's working, but. That is a perfect example of the yes, but in storytelling. She said, yes, this works, but it's not working how we need it to. which is kind of cool. And eventually, in just a little bit, we'll see the another yes but that is really important. I'll point it out.
No, still too weak.
You want a clue, son?
This beacon we answered isn't pirate tech. It's top-grade military stuff. Serial stamp on the main board. Martian Congressional Navy.
Yeah, so this has another layer of intrigue, suspense, confusion even. Like, well, what's the Martian Navy doing with this? What was their plan? Why were they doing this? Was it even the Martian Navy? And this helps to sell later on some of the fear, genuine fear, and some of the motivations for some of the characters a little bit.
He laid hands on her. God damn, she planted him in the deck. That girl had skills.
What ship was that?
So I've read this part in the book, and Miller goes through a lot more to try to track down Julie, and he visits like the dojo that she trained at, and all sorts of stuff. And this is just the TV writers really, I think, doing a good job of condensing some of that into more understandable, easier compartments to just push it all together into one thing where he's interacting with this dock master or whatever, load master kind of guy, so that he can get an understanding for the kind of person that she is. She's a fighter, she's feisty, she's done training, she can handle herself, and then also, just as he asked, what ship was she leaving on, and we're going to find out here in just a second the significance of that. But it helps to condense a lot of what the book wrote into a more manageable piece.
Scopuli.
And there it is.
Transport. No cargo. Just this young lady and
And you can hear that. Did you hear that low tone in the music right when he said the Scopuli? You just get that that low hum. It's like, hey guys, this is a coincidence. That's not a good coincidence. Right? It's like you shouldn't feel good. Oh my gosh, it's the Scopuli. That was in the first episode, and this whole reason everything started. This is the catalyst ship, so to speak. And so they do a really good job with that nice low tone, just kind of giving you that sense of a little bit of foreboding.
What? What is it?
Ship. It's Mars.
So they just found out, yes, our transponder, it worked. We finally reached someone. We're going to be saved. They're going to pick us up. And then you hit the but, right? But you know how we just figured out that Mars is the one potentially responsible for blowing us up? Yeah, they're the ones who are coming to pick us up. Great, right? And this is a really cool yes but, and this is where Holden jumps in and really kicks off a lot of what's going to transpire, the events that are going to transpire over the next number of episodes, really this whole season. And in the book it happens a little earlier, but it does the same exact thing, and you'll see what he does here in a sec.
My name is James Holden,
speaking for the 5 survivors of the Canterbury. Our ship was destroyed answering a bogus SOS from a ship called the Scopuli. We recovered a false beacon and identified it as Martian naval technology. It was a trap.
Are you
We're
insane?
about to be taken aboard the MCR in Doniger.
Alex, shut him down.
Lock us out. Lock us out.
Speak for us.
We intend to cooperate and hopes this means we won't be harmed.
Should I smoke them? Say the word.
So this is all again motivated by their belief that Mars had something to do with it, or some connection to their, ship being blown up and whatnot, their current situation, and he's trying to buy them some sort of a safety net, right? Say, hey, I'm going to put this out in the open. I'm going to just broadcast this, and hopefully, someone picks it up and retransmits, and then it spreads, and they know where we are and who to blame. Now, this is a little different than in the book. The book really, I think there's actually 2 events where he sort of broadcasts. The first one being just a general broadcast to say, hey, this is what happened. Here's all the information. I want some justice for the Canterbury. And he didn't as precisely point the finger at Mars. It's a lot more of a like, hey, this is Martian technology, and that could be really significant, and not specifically pointing them out. It was a little bit more of an altruistic motivation from him in the book than in the show. But it also combines then in the book. There's also a moment where he transmits when the Doniger is going to come pick him up. He basically accidentally retransmits something saying, hey, we're going to meet up with the Doniger, blah blah blah, just so that they don't end up dead. And so they sort of combine this in the movie, which makes some sense. But the one thing I don't like about this, again, is the level of character conflict between them. I mean, Amos literally drawing his gun and being like, no, mostly because Naomi is like, hey, what are you doing? Stop it. I don't necessarily agree with the level that they went to. I know they're trying to show, they're trying to raise the stakes a little bit, but it doesn't really translate for me.
You are prisoners of the Mars Congressional Republic. Move and you die.
So right there, we just get this little cliffhanger, this fun little cliffhanger. Not sure what's going to happen. He transmitted that message, and I bet the Martians are pretty pissed about it. So, yeah. So, very cool episode. A lot of fun. I enjoyed watching this again and just studying up a little bit on some of the fun stuff related to the episode. Especially thank you guys for telling me about the book. I've been working on reading through it, or listening through it at least, and it's been really fun to be able to compare how the book did things and the show did. Honestly, the show has been doing a really good job of keeping in line with the book, and any of the reasons that things have changed are understandable, right? For condensing it into more manageable chunks, or not being able to look inside the mind of one of the characters, specifically Miller or Holden, and using other visual means to express that. I think they're doing a great job, which is really cool. So thank you guys for highlighting that for me and pointing that out. And I'm reading through it, so I'm excited for the next episode, and hopefully it'll be out next Thursday. Yeah, it's been great. So see you guys later.